Hello and welcome back to our YouTube channel. My name is Neil Kane. Today I'm going to be walking you through particularly why folks that have significant age gaps between them and their federal employees, what are the difficulties that they face in retirement? So let's get into those issues. We have three issues that we've kind of identified as being problematic, especially when it comes to federal couples. One is going to be around healthcare timing. There's this kind of confusion around Medicare and FEHB. We're going to talk about kind of what is the unique challenge when folks are, separate in age there in turning on Medicare Part B and why that becomes problematic. Additionally, we're going to be talking about distribution planning. We all understand, right, as federal employees, we have to take TSP withdrawals at a certain age. Those are called RMDs. That creates a challenge when someone is a different or a more significant age difference between them. Lastly, kind of that surviving last man standing situation creates vulnerabilities for one spouse. And we're going to talk about those three key areas right here and hone in on them specifically. Medicare coordination, TSP withdrawal specifically when there's a 10-year age gap between each spouse, and then the tax burden that's left behind for the surviving spouse. Okay, so when we talk about Medicare timing, we all understand that at age 65, we are supposed to launch into action and now get Medicare Part A and Part B. It's a little confusing because FEHB continues on into retirement for both spouses, right? And then the coordination around if there's an age gap between these two spouses is, okay, well, I'm the older spouse. I have to make this decision sooner. What then happens to my younger spouse? Is he or she supposed to get on Medicare Part B? What then happens with our FEHB? Well, essentially, the allure to getting on Medicare Part B, okay, and Medicare Part A. Let's talk about Medicare Part A first. Number one, it's a free insurance policy. It doesn't automatically begin at age 65, so you're going to have to take that and get on that yourself at age 65. But Medicare Part B is a different animal. That comes at a cost. So what's this kind of this difficulty around this decision? Well, when you retire, your FEHB status will actually change to what's called a retiree plan. By having a retiree plan is at age 65, they expect you to get on Medicare Part B for the most part, because what essentially happens is, A, you're going to have a penalty if you don't get on that plan, and it comes at a cost. It starts at $185 a month, but it goes up from there with higher income. But the other part is once you cross the age of 65, they're going to limit the coverage and only actually pay out up to what Medicare Part B would have paid out in terms of what it is approved to pay out. That's the difference. So in that scenario, you will likely, not everyone, get on Medicare Part B, especially at the lower rung premiums, right? But if you start to get out to higher premiums, you make the decision to not get it. But in this case, the older spouse will get on, the younger spouse will not. So the benefit of getting Medicare Part B, the biggest one is it comes with the ability to switch from the standard plan to the basic plan. That comes with a reimbursement. But the problem is if your spouse is relying on your health insurance, right? You have a family or self plus one, you're not going to want to reduce their coverage when they're not eligible for Medicare Part B yet, right? So in that case, you're not going to be eligible for the reimbursement right away. So you're going to be stuck with kind of paying for Medicare Part B, stuck with paying the standard insurance option with FEHB, not eligible to go to basic until your spouse also hits age 65. So that is a problematic issue, okay? And it's something that we want to plan around and make some decisions. The other issue is this required distribution. So at age 73 or 75, you have this decision around on required distributions. And for the most part, that uses a single life expectancy table to determine those premiums. However, if you and your spouse are 10 years apart, you can use the joint life table. Let's take a look at that table real quickly and kind of look at the differences. Notice the RMD factor is going to be smaller every single year you age, right? If we're looking at that single life factor. As that factor goes smaller, that actually increases the percentage that you have to pay out because you're dividing your account by that factor. So that means, again, the smaller the factor, the larger the percentage, right? If we actually look at age 75 at 22.9, that represents 4.5% distribution out of your TSP. Now, for a federal employee that has Social Security and a federal pension, a lot of times a 4.5% distribution rate is too much. So this is where the joint life expectancy table for spouses that are 10 years younger really helps out, because now you're dividing your TSP by 28.7, which actually ends up being a 3.5% distribution rate. However, the challenge is that the TSP doesn't offer the joint life calculation. And in order for you to get that lower withdrawal rate, you've got to shift and roll over to an IRA before those RMDs begin. So to lower that RMD, if you're 10 years more younger than a spouse, 10-year life age gap, you got to go to a traditional IRA in that scenario to get that joint life table. So that kind of hashes out that distribution hiccup there. Let's talk a little bit about what we call the widow's penalty. So the widow's penalty is essentially a tax filing status change that happens when your spouse passes away. You will be allowed to still claim the joint tax status for the rest of the year in your spouse passing away, but the future years you will be going into as a single filer, which means higher tax rates because all of a sudden your tax brackets have shrunk by half. You might have less income, but you will likely not have lower tax rates for a surviving spouse. You will also have the ability to get on the highest Social Security earners social, which means trading yours for your spouse's if it's higher. So it's a little bit of a reduction in benefit, but as you'll see here in this next slide, if we look at the numbers, the actual taxes go up. Why? RMDs for the most part are going to stay flat, right? Money's just going to change over from one person to the other. Social Security is then going to be upped to the higher amount, right? But as you look, married filing jointly, in this example, with this amount of income, which was about $130,000 of income, is catching about $11,000 federal tax rate. But if we look at even a lower income, RMD of $60,000, Social Security of $48,000, assuming the spouse assumes the higher Social Security amount, we are at a $17,000 plus in taxes. This is exactly how a widow gets penalized for not proper planning while both spouses were alive. And that's especially problematic when there's a bigger age gap. So this is where we recommend some strategic planning solutions that really revolve around the Roth. The Roth is an excellent way to reduce the tax burden on your spouse. It creates tax-free income, it avoids RMDs, and this is why Roth conversions are so popular in this age demographic between two spouses of a larger age gap. Of course, there's life insurance, and that provides tax-free benefits and can be very beneficial to a spouse that is obviously younger. But we want to kind of plan around the trade-off of taxes and the surviving spouse's tax situation. And are there some planning that we should be thinking about doing while both of us are alive? Okay. And this is where we can recommend a consultation. We call this a retirement readiness consultation. It's a 1-hour meeting on Zoom. It's complimentary. You can come in, meet our team, and we can help you sound out these ideas. Now, to do that, you register directly by going to our website, which is retfed.com/register. Or if you have a smartphone, you can take a QR photo right of this and it will launch our registration page. But lastly, it's our YouTube channel. You're watching this right now. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. We love new subscribers joining our channel because we're trying to get our algorithm up. So please like our video as well. Share this with friends. It really helps the cause. So hopefully you found this informative. Until next time, we'll be posting some other videos right here on the channel. Thank you.